Westernspring Television. Ours it is.
Well, it's a new dawn. It's the beginning of a new era in Nigeria. It's the beginning of a new administration. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, former governor of Lagos State, former senator of the Federal Republic, is now holding sway at the helms of affairs as the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Beautiful, beautiful ceremony yesterday in Abuja, the nation's capital. On that note, to welcome you to the show. It's a brand new day. May 30th of 2023. My name is Emmanuel Ojadigile. Thank you so much for starting your day with us.
We're still trying to balance. I'm actually still trying to balance to get used to the fact that we have a new president.
Oh, yes.
And it's still, if I have to still address who is the president of Nigeria,
The president. It take quite some time.
We'd like to say congratulations to the #1 citizen of this great nation, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Wish you a successful tenure, and as we stated yesterday, we'll look forward to a beautiful administration with you, doing the right things and holding forth to make sure that Nigeria gets to the desired land. Good morning to you all out there. Welcome to Morning Spring, coming to you live from your station of choice, Westernspring Television. Tunde Idowu is my name.
Oh, well, so yesterday was full of activities, not just at Abuja, the nation's capital, although that was where the attention was focused on. But if you followed the trends, 18 returning governors, or new governors rather, were sworn in yesterday. Some activities all over the place. 10 new governors also came in and their inaugurations too had some sort of drama, some sort of interesting things that you get to see on the trends. But then the most striking one was in Kano. Yeah, yesterday. Some activities, some Nigerianness coming to play at the inauguration venue. But we're reaching you live from StarTimes Channel 190 on the DTT platform. You can check us out on all our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel at Westernspring Television to follow us live and catch up with episodes of all your programs. We have the papers ready for you, and we'll take a quick break now and tell you what's happening. If you ask me to take a bet, if you ask me to take a guess, I will tell you offhand what's on the faces of the papers this morning. We all know what is on the faces of the papers. Congratulatory messages, takeaways from yesterday's inauguration, but you get to see details of those stories after this break. Okay, so welcome back to the program this morning. It's the day after the inauguration, like I said, and a lot of things happened yesterday in the country, and a lot of activities actually. The morning began very wet in Abuja. It rained early into the morning. Some light shower, not a heavy downpour, but all around the country there was some heavy downpour. Even here, Shogbo here was some light showers too. Not very heavy, but let's go straight to the papers this morning. I will start with the Punch newspaper this morning. The Punch newspaper is where we begin our story review. Tuesday, May 30th, 2023. Banner headline says, Nigeria won't break up. Nigeria will not break up. That's coming from Tinubu. That's what he's saying. As Tinubu meets US, UK, Saudi Arabia envoys. And the writer says, the president says Nigeria will continue to exist, promises not to be a dictator. Ipman opposes fuel subsidy removal, accused resurface in Abuja, Lagos, others. Biden writes President Tinubu says Nigeria's success is world's success. Well, of course, immediate reactions to yesterday's activity. Yes.
Yeah. Looking at that point, amongst the riders you reeled out right now, Ipman opposing the fuel subsidy removal, and I would say why. Probably in the course of the week, we'll probably look for some of their officials who can come tell us why they are opposing the fuel subsidy removal. We know what this has actually cost Nigeria and Nigerians in the last couple of years, how this humongous amount of money is being spent on fuel subsidy. Looking at what Mr. President said, that fuel subsidy is gone. And
he was so emphatic about it.
And looking at the reaction from the crowd, people who were at Eagle Square yesterday, immediately they heard that. The noise at that moment was massive. Fuel subsidy, we'll keep our fingers crossed. It's something that has really hampered every government that's been in power over the years. That's a large amount of money. Where is it going? And what's the basis of fuel subsidy? But we wish Mr. President the very best. And we'll also look forward to getting officials of IPMAN who can actually come tell us why. But you can check out full details from the pages of Punch newspaper. Yes,
and yesterday, what surprised me was the immediate reaction to the declaration of the president saying that fuel subsidy will be removed. People began to panic buy. I saw pictures of filling stations, queues, really massive queues there, people rushing to panic buy, and then of course we'll get to see filling stations holding petrol products very soon. Good that the president of the United States has also written the president of Nigeria, saying Nigeria's success is world success, and you can see pictures from the events there. President Tinubu, former President Buhari, and their wives there while he was reading or taking his oath into office. There you can also see Kashim Shettima, the vice president, taking his own oath. Well, below that story talks about other inaugurations across the country. Yesterday, Sanwo-Olu Abiodun sworn in for second term. Zamfara governor laments empty treasury, as on pages 8, 42, and 43 of the Punch newspaper.
In the next couple of weeks, at least, once the opposition probably takes over for governance in any state at this point, that is what we will hear. Right? We met nothing in the treasury. Things, properties from the government were taken away. This is a period we will get to hear such news. And Zamfara has actually kicked off. We'll see where next we'll hear.
Of course, it will also in Kano, the governor there has sacked some of the persons appointed by his predecessor Abdullahi Ganduje, and also reversed some contract and some appointments, and said that millions that were stolen would be recovered and repurposed into the state treasury. But this is our politics. It's politics and politicking. That's what you expect from all of these people. Now, the red story on the Punch newspaper this morning says, mother-daughters found dead in Lagos shop. Police kill man. As on page 5. I mean, all of these stories are not really heartwarming people. It's the lives of people who are losing their lives, and it's not really good. Page 4, probe begins as rampaging youths set Lagos police station ablaze. As on page 4 of the newspaper. Another problem we have is rampaging this, rampaging that. So, certain places. It takes my mind back to the cash scarcity era, when young people were vandalizing banks and vandalizing, ATMs. People seem to be short-sighted in this part of the world. When you destroy public property, something as public as a police station or as a bank, which is a private property, by the way, there's a ripple effect. There's a consequence attached.
The citizen.
Yes, because now that there's cash for those people available, how do you get your cash? The institutions that were supposed to keep the cash have been burnt down. The same thing with the police station. The people were supposed to secure you. It could have been as a result of a clash between the police and the youth or something. But the people who are supposed to secure you burn down their offices or their office. Now there's a problem, and you need them to protect you. How do you get to them? We're quite short-sighted here.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. We're short-sighted, and I just hope that orientation we as citizens, we all can get this properly. Because if you have to burn down such institutions, how do you get across to them? These are so many things we need to consider. But be that as it may, his vis-a-vis, something must have triggered. We've seen some very trigger-happy policemen.
Yes.
For one reason or the other, things they could have easily just resolved, or probably look. We need to get. We've seen what it looks like in more developed nations. I've always emphasized on this anytime I have the opportunity to do this. In more developed nations, the police just need to hoot behind you. Once you hear that sound, you know you've just got to park. And once you park, he comes out of his vehicle to say, "Good afternoon to you, ma'am. Good afternoon, sir. Papers." And obviously your hands will be on your steering. That's what he wants to see. Hands on the steering, probably if he now feels threatened. But in this part of Nigeria, in this part of the world, we know how we get them. Before you just begin to hear them shout at you, "Come out, get out." I mean, now, respect is reciprocal. I can't come in to this studio, see all of us, see Emmanuel, my colleagues up in here, and just come and sit. The respect is gradually fading out. We need to give each other that respect. The police need to do that to us. I think this were part of the things that triggered the NSAS in 2020, where so many things, lives were lost, properties were destroyed. But we need an overhaul of this way of life, because if you're to talk to me, I expect you to talk to me with some manners, and I will reciprocate in that manner as well. Not because you're carrying a rifle. Now I have to be scared. But be that as it may, Emmanuel, I will not succumb. I will not subject to the fact that we have to burn down these properties.
Yes, that's not something really particularly exciting.
It isn't.
It's government. I mean, government will have to spend more money to fix
our
own money. Yeah, so it's self-sabotage in the long run, counterproductive, if you ask me. Now, on the Punch newspaper, still above the nameplate on page 43, my cabinet members feared being jailed by Buhari. My cabinet member feared being jailed by Buhari. That's coming from former President Goodluck Jonathan. I don't know if former President Buhari's cabinet members will fear being jailed by Tinubu now. But I mean, the dynamics around the change of guard, you know, during Buhari's time, it's something that we've never seen before.
Yeah.
And so it probably spoke to why this cabinet members were afraid of being jailed.
I really would love to. I know in the course of the day, I will sit back, open up the papers, and really read that story. It's one story I would love to read, because there's that fear about the former president Buhari, and from a former president as well, saying my cabinet members feared being jailed. If you're doing the right thing, there's no way you should fear anything. But definitely, probably they've had their hands in shady deals during their own tenure as well. I hope we'll keep our fingers crossed and see what this cabinet looks like with the new president and some of the aides and some of the ministers of the last president, last government. Let's just keep our fingers crossed. Right, man?
We'll keep our fingers crossed. Well, on page 28, government eyes $48 billion from Abuja Kano Airport concession, as on page 28 of the Punch newspaper. Tinubu Obaseki has some sad story there. Tinubu Obaseki orders mourn as Dokpesi dies at 71. The chairman of the Dark Communications Group, Raymond Dokpesi, died yesterday. Was said to have died, or said to have developed a cardiac arrest. We don't know the details yet. But reports have it that he died while using his treadmill. You know, so if you must exercise, please make sure that you balance it with daily checks to see how your body is reacting to the exercises that you're doing. Well, that's all on the Punch newspaper this morning.
Let me take my fourth sets of headlines from Daily Trust newspaper for this morning. And just as we stated when we started the show, that major stories you will get here today is all about what happened yesterday at Eagle Square, the inauguration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Daily Trust newspaper this morning has quite a whole lot of riders. And let me begin with the banner headline from Daily Trust. Fuel subsidy is gone. That was the statement. Looking at that statement, is gone. And if you had probably seen the reaction of Mr. President at that moment, he had this stern look at that moment and said, it's gone. So whoever wants to probably cry or whatever, but
you take your time to understand that it's gone.
It is gone. Seriously. Okay. And a writer to that story from Daily Trust newspaper here pledges Naira redesign review, higher growth rate, wants interest rate reduced. Yes, that was another point from his speech yesterday, that the interest rates, which moved from 18% to 18.5% interest rate, is too high. And I think Nigerians felt, yeah, probably this man is talking. But we know politicians for whom they are. Probably let's use it as an avenue to be able to get the people to our side. But we'll keep our fingers crossed. And it's a long way. 48 months, 4 years. Let's see. Other writer there says, I'll walk with you. Biden assures president.
Well, I'd still, for some reason, in this part of the world, international validation is still something that we crave so much. We crave some sort of, I mean, if you look at the aftermath of the elections, one of the talking points by the opposition, if you may now, was that no government has congratulated President Tinubu. Nobody has said well done and all of it. So it seems that we still have some sort of taste for foreign validation, which of course has been coming in now after the inauguration. And it's good to see that we are maintaining good bilateral relations with all of these countries. You can exist as an island, as a country. No country has it all. Even the most powerful nations of the world still depend on other countries for little things. It's a symbiotic relationship that has to continue. So you really can't take it away from the presidents of the US and Nigeria working together there. Yeah,
yesterday at Eagle Square, even one of the major things that I actually saw there and surprised me were, as far as Asia, we had Asian envoy who were there. They came and I was like, wow, right up to that point.
Yeah,
Asia?
I think the Punch reported that we had some
Saudi Arabia.
Yes, from the Middle East to there.
Wow. Okay. We need that bilateral relations. It's needed. And below the picture of Mr. President in his motorcade yesterday, looking very exciting and so happy. And here I am, waving at everybody. And yesterday, we have this story just below the picture there. Let's see if we can just reel over these stories here.
Over the stories.
Tambuwal Sean's inauguration as APC's Aliu takes over Sokoto.
Yeah, well, you expect that. You don't expect that they're from different parties and both of them will meet. Yeah, here, I think here in Osun State too.
Yeah, it happened here in Osun State.
Yeah, it happens.
But yeah, I wouldn't really want to criticize. I can't even criticize. I can't criticize. Yeah, actually, I think I can criticize. But I feel it's about maturity. We need to just go back to the drawing board and say, hey, my party has lost. What happened? Let's get it right. But here we are. When I have to shun your birthday party, that means probably we're not in target. But we need to probably sort out what exactly is the reason why I am not going to attend your party. You are from a political party. I am from another political party. Doesn't mean that we should not be able to work together. I could look at some of your cabinet members during your tenure and like, oh, this particular person was outstanding. Let me integrate him or her into my own system, as long as the people we want to govern in that particular country, that particular state, need someone who is competent. It's about competency.
Yes.
But I still really find it difficult to see somebody from this party saying, look, you did well with your party. Come into my cabinet, even though you're not in my party, you did well. That is what we're looking at. Yeah, but that's why I said I really wouldn't want to criticize as much is I remember the U.S. then when President Donald Trump didn't attend the inauguration of Joe Biden and sent Mike Pence. Even at that, people from the political Republicans, they still criticize Mike Pence for that he should have acknowledged, shouldn't have that. But I just hope that democracy can get better worldwide. Let's see how well you and I, my party and yours, can do it right. Let's make the country a better place. Let's make the state a better place. Let the citizens feel the impact of governance. It's not about the fact that my inauguration, because I have lost, I'm not coming. No, they should. It's a long way to go. Yes. But just as if politicians are funny, when they still see themselves out there, they will still hug and play and talk
and all of that. The same cabal that they
know themselves.
They meet where they meet.
They know where they meet as well. So other stories there. Isla freezes Benue account. That's another thing there.
Yeah, the man, the Reverend Father there, freezing the account for the Hyacinth area of Benue State, freezing the account of the state. Is of the opposition party taking over from Samuel Autumn and also wanting to make a statement, freezing the account, probably most likely for checks. Yes, for checks and for there's a word for it now, auditing. Yes, and that's why you must have frozen it. But then it will be interesting. So many interesting. If you read all of those writers, let's take them quickly. Yeah. You see so many things happening from the states where inaugurations took place yesterday. All
right. I'll sustain peace, resettle more IDPs. That's one governor I respect dearly, Professor Babagana Zulum, Borno State. Now, I'm so excited that at least Borno State is relatively noticing calm these days. All right. We will improve lives of banditry victims, fight ghost workers. That's credited to Katsina governor there. And moving over to Gombe. Gombe governor pledges to clear backlog of gratuity. Yeah, please, for those who have worked for 35 years or attained the age of 60, 65, whatever, please, their gratuity, their pensioners, they need this token government is paying. Plateau has a debt burden of 200 billion naira. That's credited to the new governor, Mutfuwang, 200 billion naira. Okay. Abba Gida issues executive order to probe Ganduje.
Well, welcome to Kano State. That's what's going on in Kano now. It's the Kwakwansia movement. That's how it's perceived now versus the Ganduje era. It's going to be an interesting long run, between the protege of Rabi Musa Kwakwansia and former governor Abdullahi Ganduje. It's going to be very, very interesting.
I just hope they shouldn't set this state. He's right. He can. If he feels, I have some certain discrepancies about certain things in government while you were there, and I need to know why this money was expended. What was it for? Yeah, but certainly I will just wish, and I just wish that
it's done within the ambit of the law. Yeah, and nobody goes extra miles. Ganduje no longer has his immunity, so you can take it away from there.
Cross River governor reads riot act to criminals. Please let them understand. And Kefa's pledges empowerment, security in Taraba. Kefa's pledges empowerment, security in Taraba. And moving close to us here in Oyo State, Makinde unveils socio-economic development agency. Call me Malam, not His Excellency. As a new Jigawa governor.
Everybody's trying to be novel, come up with different ideas, different way. We just hope that most of all of these ideas translate to good governance, because it's not, it's not just about titles, it's not about appellations or how you come into government. It's what you do while you're in government. Congratulate all the governors, wish them well, and hope that they will do very well to support whatever it is the government at the center will be doing. Well, that's the first leg of the papers.
Sorry, Manuel. Okay. You didn't see the last one there.
El-Rufai, yes, before we leave. So
look at how he amounts. He's coming out to say, I left $577.32 million, 64.54 billion naira debt.
That's coming from Malam Nasser El-Rufai in Kaduna State. Well, the next administration, which is headed by one of his allies and proteges, would have a lot of work to do to, pay or service those debts and also borrow new debts, have new debts on their necks for development, because most governments like to borrow and to finance projects and all of that. So let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll bring you the rest of the papers. Stay with us.
Arrested, affected, sound, found. What do we see? What do we say? Flowing from a spring. A fact A to Z. Check and confirm. Ever is pounding current events. Traveling down from the business gist to the globally arising happenings, to the sports news, to the bittersweet infos. Guided transmission, even diffusion, vast and fast, detailed facts are fled. Within seconds, nuggets of words that flew across borders are fired. Stories short and long, wrapped in bundles of words, broken and dissected as it is, except misheard. This is the news as it is.
All right, welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the show, Morning Spring. So quickly, let's take the remaining papers for you. We'll take The Nation now. The Nation newspaper banner headline says, "My plans by Tinubu" on page 5. Experts back president and subsidy exchange rate, and you can get the full speech on page 63 of The Nation. And there's a quote there: "Whether from the winding creeks of the Niger Delta, the vastness of the northern savannah, the boardrooms of Lagos, the bustling capital of Abuja, or the busy markets of Onitsha, you are all my people. As your president, I shall serve with prejudice towards none, but compassion and amity towards all." End of quote. Which is a highlight of the inauguration address that you get to see there. Economy targets 6% of GDP growth, fuel subsidies, security, and the general principles to be president of all. Nigeria's unity not negotiable, fairness to all, Africa-centered foreign policy. Bottom strip, Biden promises or pledges to work with new government, take decisive action, can tells president. And just below the nameplate, US, UK, Saudi Arabia, envoys, others in bilateral meetings with Tinubu. That's the meeting, the relationship myself and Tunde were talking about earlier. Above the nameplate, governors unfold agenda in 28 states. Democracy deepens. Ipman 6 probe of 60 million liter daily petrol consumption claim. And page 8, torrent of tribute for media mogul Dr. C. Airports named after Buhari, Awolowo, Idiagbon, others. Also on page 68 of The Nation.
And quickly, I'll check out some of the headlines from the Guardian newspaper for this morning. It has to, the banner headline from the Guardian newspaper here says, scarcity trails subsidy removal as Tinubu begins house cleaning. Okay, and you see the picture of Mr. President signing the register there, and also in its motorcade there yesterday. Moving further, you can see the house cleaning agenda. I like that word, the house cleaning agenda. If you're interested in it, please, you can check out full details from The Guardian. Also, from at the bottom strip of the same daily, no opposition to blame as Tinubu Mount Saddle gets Biden support. And Sanwo-Olu kicks off second term, optimistic of a better Lagos. Amidst the fanfare of yesterday, towards the tail end of yesterday, the evening of yesterday, when the news of the death of the chairman of Dark Communications PLC, High Chief Raymond Dokpesi, when we heard that he died. Dokpesi, I have lost a friend, brother. That's credited to Atiku Abubakar. That story is on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper, and other stories say there at the bottom strip. El Rufai accuses Buhari of mishandling terrorism as Sani vows to secure Kaduna. Controversy over Kali Air assets, 900 million naira debt to aero contractors. Hey, man.
So much happening in the country.
So much. That's all from the Guardian newspaper from me.
Well, that's all on the papers this morning. We'll take a break now. When we come back, we're bringing our guests to look at the Tinubu administration. Well, it's the Tinubu administration already. Yeah. 24 hours after being sworn in. It's a working week. It's not a weekend. It's a Tuesday. And so we expect that the president has hit the ground running. Like he said, his first agenda, his first plan will be to hit the ground running. So we'll take a break and we'll bring in our guests to dissect for us the happenings of yesterday. We'll also take you through some of the events. We'll take a look at the report done, by our correspondent here, both for the Abuja inauguration and out around the country. So let's take that break now. We'll be back with our guests.
The 1914 Amalgamation Treaty is synonymous to the birth of Nigeria. Frederick Lugard, a British Army captain and an outlaw who struck gold in Africa, became the instrument used by destiny to make it happen. The amalgamation of Nigeria was designed for economic reasons by the colonial administration to offset Northern Protectorate budget deficit by Southern Protectorate surplus returns. The amalgamation had ab initio created imbalance in the economic political structure of Nigeria and was responsible for the persistent hiccups in the efforts to forge a united country till today. Nigeria's amalgamation was labeled as the mistake of 1914 by native northern conservatives who neither wanted it nor contributed anything significant to its sustenance. Westernspring Television identifies with Amalgamation Treaty of 1914 as a watershed event in history. Born Jeremiah Oyeni Obafemi on March 6, 1905, Obafemi Awolowo was a prime architect of Nigeria's independence and most consummate advocate of free education and social welfare in Africa's most populous nation. Erudite politician, thinker and philosopher, Awo was fondly addressed by associates and political colleagues, brought his unique attributes to bear on governance in the defunct Western region. He administered as leader of government business and the premier between 1955 and 1958. Obafemi Awolowo's premiership witnessed pioneering in multi-sectoral policy initiatives and execution. The Western region under his administration paraded several enviable records. First television station in Africa, first real estate in Nigeria, first high-rise building in Nigeria, first modern sports stadium in Nigeria, first agricultural settlement in Nigeria, first modern civil service secretariat in Nigeria, and first industrial estate in Nigeria. His face is on 100 naira denomination as a mark of honor for his distinguished services to his country. Westernspring Television identifies Obafemi Awolowo as a major character in history. Damosi Adegoke Adelabu was a prominent figure in Ibadan politics and Western region before Nigeria's independence. He was a key founder of the National Council of Nigeria and the Cameroons, a political party that held lofty the torch of liberty for the two West African countries. He carved a niche for himself as a wordsmith and a creative speaker. The nickname Kwenkele was a natively corrupted version of peculiar mess, his bombastic English language style often used to score proceedings at the parliament. The author of Africa in Ebullition, a handbook of freedom for Nigerian nationalists, was Nigeria's Federal Minister of Natural Resources and Social Services between 1955 and 1956. He died in an auto crash on the 25th March 1958 at the age of 42. Westernspring Television identifies Adegoke Adelabu as a watershed character in history. The name Adolf Hitler exudes a gale of bile from millions of people who were victims of his autocratic rule and love, from fanatical supporters of his imperial aggression. Born April 20, 1889, at a small Austrian town sandwiched between Austro-German frontier, Adolf Hitler spent most of his childhood in Linz, the capital of Upper Austria. As a very prominent stakeholder in the horrific events of conflicts in Europe, Adolf Hitler could simply go off as the sole mover of the Second World War. 40 million Jews were murdered in the gas chambers of various Nazi camps on the orders of Adolf Hitler. Thousands of Adolf Hitlers still live in Germany today, but the majority of them are elderly and were named before the end of the Second World War. As the name pales into vanishing rarity, 13 children according to official records were named Adolf Hitler between 2006 and 2013. Westernspring Television identifies Adolf Hitler as a major character in history. Ahmadu Bello, a Prince Royal, was born 6th of December 1910 at Raba Village, Sokoto, northwestern Nigeria. His father was a district head and heir apparent to the Sultanate throne from the house of Usmanu Danfodio, a religious and social reformer who brought the Habib dynasty under the Fulani Caliphate in the beginning of the 19th century. Ahmadu Bello raised the bar of political consciousness in participation when, in 1944, he engineered the establishment of the Northern People's Congress (NPC) as the first political party in northern Nigeria and the rallying point for politicians in the region before independence. History will not forget Ahmadu Bello for his charisma and political sagacity, which provided easy passage for his kinsmen to assume political and administrative positions in Nigeria's post-independence era. The distinguished elder statesman and Sardauna of Sokoto has his face on his country's 200 naira currency as a mark of honor to one of the architects of Nigeria's independence. Westernspring Television identifies Ahmadu Bello as a watershed character in history. This iconic African presents the narrative of a man destined to exert an imperishable global influence in Western education. His was a story of a freeborn, captured and sold into slavery. He was born in Oshogun, a native Yoruba village near Iseyin in Okiogun axis of southwest Nigeria. Samuel Ajayi Crowther was the foundation student of Fora Bay College, Sierra Leone, the foremost university where the pioneer set of native Africans were educated. Samuel Ajayi Crowther's greatest contribution to humanity was his translation of the Holy Bible into the Yoruba language. The man who authored the Yoruba dictionary was also credited with the translation of English classic hymns into Yoruba and the Ekwere languages. Samuel Ajayi Crowther's private residence in Badagry, incidentally the first story building in Nigeria, is an archival museum dedicated to the memory of Africa's first bishop.
All right, welcome back to the show and welcome back to, like I said earlier in the beginning of the show, it's a new dispensation for Nigerians. Renewed hope, that's the mantra that was passed around before the inauguration, before the election and after the election. And yesterday, renewed hope came on board in Abuja. Well, we have our guest for you in the studio. We have, first we're joined by architect Goki Omigbodo, who is a regular person on the show, Man of Many Parts. But today he will be speaking to the issues that were raised yesterday in Abuja. Thank you so much for your time on the show this morning.
My pleasure to be here.
And
greetings, everybody.
Yes, our comrade, congratulations on the new administration, if I must congratulate.
Oh yes, I must congratulate all Nigerians that we had that peaceful transition yesterday, and I always pray that the moments that we'll have in governance will always be on the upbeat, that things will always get better.
And I was also joined by Comrade Dayo Ologun, who is a journalist, a socio-political commentator, and human rights activist. Thank you so much for your time.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
To be on the show. Okay, so before we go into what happened yesterday, let's take a quick trip to Abuja and see some of the things that occurred yesterday, including the key takeaways from the president's speech.
A new sheriff is in town, and his name is Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Bola Ahmed Tinubu bear true allegiance to the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that as President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria,
President Tinubu will be serving Nigerians alongside his vice, Kashim Shettima.
As Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I will discharge my duties and perform my functions honestly to the best of my ability and faithfully in accordance with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the law.
These two men today took their oath as leaders of Nigeria for the next 4 years in the presence of national and international dignitaries at the Eagle Square, Abuja. Despite the inclement weather, the inauguration of Nigeria's 16th president went on as planned with the arrival of former President Muhammadu Buhari, who was chairman of the day. That and the arrival of the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Oluwakayode Ariwola, who administered the oath, signals the end of an era and the beginning of another one. Flags folding and handing over, military parades and other colorful activities defined the day after the light showers ceased. It's time for speeches, and the president takes the podium. He pays homage to his predecessor, the Armed Forces, Chief Justice of Nigeria, and other dignitaries present. His first few sentences address the lingering issue of fuel subsidy.
Subsidy. Unfortunate. The budget that I've glimpsed before I assumed office and what I've had is that no provision is there for fuel subsidy. The fuel subsidy is gone.
President Tinubu goes on to assure Nigerians that their lives and property will be safe under his watch.
Security shall be top priority of our administration, because neither prosperity nor justice can prevail amid insecurity and violence. To effectively tackle this, we shall reform both our security doctrine and its architecture.
Inheriting a deeply fragmented nation with citizens divided along ethnic and religious lines, the 71-year-old Tinubu calls for fairness and equality.
Our mission is to improve our ways of life in a manner that nurtures our humanity, encourages compassion towards one another, and duly reward our collective effort to social ill and seek to divide us.
President Tinubu goes further to say all hands must be on deck so as not to undo the work of heroes past.
We must never allow the labor of those who came before us to wither in vain, but to blossom and bring forth a better reality.
The president's speech comes to an end, but not without the statutory gun salute and hearty cheers.
President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Federal Republic of Nigeria. Hep, hep,
Earlier, he had taken a short trip around the Eagle Square in his motorcade. After his inauguration, attention has now turned to the former Lagos Governor, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, as he seeks to chart a new path for Nigeria in the next 4 years. Mr. Muhammadu Buhari, on the other hand, has now exited the scene alongside Professor Yemi Osinbajo. Both men now return to their normal lives as private citizens. Emmanuel Ujadigele, Westernspring Television News.
All right, thank you for that report. And fortunately, it's still done by it was done by my brother, my colleague Emmanuel. Thank you. Great job here. Once again, let's welcome our guest back. It's still Morning Spring right here on Westernspring Television. Let's begin the show as we want to take a look at the president's speech yesterday and the activities. Let's see what it looks like for the next 4 years. What are his plans as he has stated them out there yesterday? Let's digest, let's dissect this agenda with the great minds we have in house. Architect Okiyemi Bodun, let me begin with you at this moment in time. I think it will definitely go for both of you. What do you make of his inaugural speech, the president?
Well, I think that was a great speech, typical of inaugural speeches, to make inspirational statements, to have a little assessment of the previous administration, albeit I'm not sure that the assessment that President Tinubu gave is what most Nigerians will agree with of the immediate previous administration. And then to give a little insight into what we should expect in the immediate future. And I could see that he did all of those. Of course, vintage Bola Ahmed Tinubu, that Emilokan sentiment will also be there to say that, in wrapping up the entire thing, and that's a lot of people hailed him for that, but to me, I thought it was necessary to declare, why are you re-emphasizing it again, that to achieve all of this, I am the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I could read in between that, well, that's the entirety of your ambition. So I hope it will just not be like Muhammadu Buhari, who also had that ambition, but was not actually able to push the ambition of Nigerians. He got his own ambition, and he also never minced was declaring it that he was satisfied with his own life. But how about the life of the rest of Nigerians? But the issue is about the speech of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He was able to speak a few things that I expected he should address, and he, honestly, the presentation, to me, honestly, fantastic. He spoke about security. He spoke about fuel subsidy. Yeah. He spoke about stretching the olive branch to his co-contestants, albeit a little bit condescendingly. And, I've said I have reservations about some comments he made about, especially the elections. He said they were the best elections that Nigeria has ever had. Of course, many of us believe that those are the worst elections that Nigeria have ever had. And in your preamble, so to say, you said President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, at least for the next 4 years. Some of us don't pray that it will be so. I'm obedient to the call, and I'm still not going to pretend about that. But I congratulated Nigerians on the peaceful transition, because I have never been one of those that will say that we should not have that transition. So for that duration of time, whatever it is, a few weeks, a few months, 4 years, 8 years that he will be president, if he actually follows the rhetoric that he has pushed across towards Nigerians with that inaugural speech, and which I said is typical of virtually all inaugural speeches everywhere in the world, because I am aware that even writers of those speeches will go and look at speeches of other people. In fact, what I did last night was I compared the inaugural speech of Bola Ahmed Tinubu with that of President Biden. And I saw structure by structure, paragraph by paragraph, just a little bit of bringing in our own realities here into that typical structure. And I'm not trying to say that even that was written for Biden was original, so to say. There seems to be that structure to inspire, to push rhetorics forward. And you will remember that some time ago, perhaps about a week ago, you brought me here to come and have a few words on the performance of the President Muhammadu Buhari administration. And I said on issues of plans pushed across to Nigerians, I will score them high. So here again, we are starting with somebody coming with a great plan. I told you with my experiences working in the monitoring and evaluation unit of the United Nations Development Program, I know that there are certain things you need to look at. Yes, you look at the plan, you look at the activities, you check the output, and then what is the outcome on the people, the impact on the people eventually. Here we are again. We have come with another great plan. He spoke about the fuel subsidy. I believe that it should be removed. I may be in the minority amongst people that will believe that. He has said that there will be more security. He spoke about the economy. He spoke about unifying the monetary policy, especially, exactly, you know, so that we will not have that arbitrage of people doing round tripping and just suddenly becoming millionaires overnight. Those are things that some of us would like to hear. In fact, also in a veiled way, he spoke about further constitutional reviews. Those things that he said there are the kinds of things that people like me would like to hear, but are we likely to eventually have those things? Or would we eventually have a situation like a Muhammadu Buhari after, I think, 6 years in office, in fact, 7 years in office, suddenly declaring that he did not anymore know the meaning of restructuring.
All right.
I hope that's not what we are going to have with this.
Okay, so let me come to Comrade Ologu now. Going through the president's speech, he said quite a number of things, monetary policy, but the ripple effect of his statement have already begun, you know, being felt. I was just reading on social media that some persons, I saw a video of a filling station, 2,005 per litre, some selling as high as 600. I saw you shaking your head when he was talking about fuel subsidy. What's your takeaway from his speech on that?
Well, just like you rightly said, the ripple effects of such speeches, albeit how great they may be, is always felt within a few hours after such declaration. And that subtle statement of his, which I want to say, or I want to rather believe, was said as a spur of the moment. As already started having this, as at this morning, fuel in the state capital of Osun is selling for 380 naira in some filling station as at this morning. That tells you that the power attached to the words of a president of a nation. But let me quickly correct this notion, which of course a lot of people share, and it's not the truth. There was nowhere in the speech of Mr. President yesterday where he said that fuel subsidy will be immediately removed. I mean, it was not in the written speech. It was in the course of delivering that speech that he said that fuel subsidy is no more, fuel subsidy is gone. But if you read the speech, you will understand that that statement was a reflection of his emotion, because it was not originally contained in the statement that was written, of which was circulated. And two things came to my mind because I watched it live, and when he said that statement, two things came to my mind. Like the Yoruba parents will say, or the Yoruba people will say, that if the masquerade knows that he was coming to become human, there are some actions that he would not have taken. Because if you remember that this same decision to remove the fuel subsidy was attempted by President Jonathan in 2012, and sponsored protests filled the whole of Ojota and a lot of other places. I remember word for word the words of our Bola Tinubu, that the president had no human empathy. That's referring to Jonathan at that time. Perhaps he didn't see himself becoming president. It is 11 years after that statements were made, when he went all out with the opposition against the decision of Jonathan administration to remove the fuel subsidy, and the onus is on him as of yesterday to make the same declaration and proclaim the removal of fuel subsidy, which was against some 11 years ago. This, for me, says that, look, as human beings, or as would-be leaders, we must be mindful of actions that we take. We must be mindful of them. We must not, in the name of politics, take a stand that might not actually reflect the reality of the people we serve. That's number one. Number two, I also want to say clearly that in my opinion, that statement was avoidable, that fuel subsidy is no more. Like I said, it was not contained in the written speech. He said that as a reflection of his emotion and his mindset on the fuel subsidy regime. But that statement was unnecessary, because I also listened to him this morning, even though I didn't catch that yesterday, but when you were doing a review this morning, I listened to him and I heard him say that look, the budget that was handed over to him did not make provision for subsidy. I think that is untrue if we want to go by fact checking, because by the reality of the present subsidy, I mean the budget, the immediate administration of President Muhammadu Buhari had stated that fuel subsidy removal will begin from July, which is the mid-term of the budget that we are presently serving. And if you are now saying that that was not contained in the budget handed over to you, I think that was not too correct if you fact check. But having said that, I also align with Machitata Gokiomigbodu and a number of other Nigerians that the removal of fuel subsidy is long overdue. But the question is, how do you remove fuel subsidy without negatively impacting on the life of the people? Perhaps I would have expected President Bola Ahmed Tinubu yesterday to have stated in clear terms that the removal of fuel subsidy will be in phases. He should have stated the process. I think that's the essence of an inaugural speech. The inaugural speech speaks to process, not to policy decisions, because policy decisions are often decided at meetings, at what do we call it, presidential what do you call it, executive council meetings and what have you. So you don't make policy statements in an inaugural speech. What you state is processes that will take, and that's one thing they failed to do. Declaring that fuel subsidy is gone yesterday, you can already see the ripple effect in some parts of Lagos where they're sending for as much as 400 plus. In Osun here is about 380. There's a resurface of the fuel queue. People are doing panic buying because they don't know what exactly it will be. So it will have been a different ball game if you have stated the process of removing of the first subsidy. Oh, I will put this in place, I'll put this in place, and then subsidy will be removed eventually. Not when you make a blanket statement of the fact that subsidy is gone. Having said that, it is also important that as Nigerians, even though I don't share the opinion of in the likely term of the new president, I understand his bias as an obedient, except the court says otherwise, which I don't pray for anyway, because one of the things we need to understand is that sometimes even across the world you don't have the best of elections. What you agitate for, what you work towards is perfection of the system. Exactly. Look, just like I believe and I've often said, without the shenanigans that came with President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, there is one thing you cannot take away from him. There's one good you cannot but give him credit for. That is the review of the electoral law. Whether we like it or not, our election will keep getting better because the system is being programmed for such.
The process.
It's a process. Some years back, nobody was talking about the beavers. Yeah. It was easy for some group of stock to go to a polling unit, hijack ballot boxes, stuff it, and take it back for counting. All that are no longer possible. And whether we like it or not, this was made possible by President Muhammadu Buhari with all other evils that comes with. So I want to believe that given 4 years in the immediate that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu might likely use, what is important is him not standing on the wrong footing. And I think we are beginning to see a lot of that is giving me concern. Just within a few hours of his inauguration yesterday, fake news were already flying everywhere. Ditto to appointment. Before you knew it, 3 names were released claiming that those ones have been appointed, which has come out to be untrue. No appointment have been made. Then you begin to read newspaper headlines that are contrary to exact things that were contained in the document of the inaugural speech. And then this gives me concern that if an administration is starting less than 24 hours and already we are giving it misconceptions, we are giving it coloring that is not its, we are beginning to attach what does not, beginning to say that agenda that are not realistic for that government, it calls for concern. And I hope that the media will live up to expectation by not allowing unscrupulous elements to begin to eat up the polity when it's not. Because look at, I take the issue of appointments for personally, because I was able to speak with one of the purported appointees yesterday, and he says, look, family and friends all around the world have congratulated me. So if tomorrow appointment eventually does not come, they will say Tinubu is evil.
Yeah. So
and these are some of the things that we need to be very mindful of.
Yeah. So as media men, we need to avoid setting up the government. But just before I go back to Tunde, I want to speak to what Comrade Ologun said when President Buhari submitted the 2023 budget to the National Assembly rather. He allocated 3.6 trillion naira to fund fuel subsidy for the first half of the year. So, January to June, if you count the first 6 months. So it wasn't really factually correct yesterday that the budget, 2023 budget handed over to President Tinubu did not make provision fuel subsidies. We'll go back to Tunde now.
Yeah, and moving on, let's look at, we're looking at some of the statement promises of his agenda, and the point at which he said there will be this unified exchange rate. And I instantly called my aboki at Savo, like, look, what is it looking like? And he gave me the figures. I spoke with my bank manager as well, and I compare. Looking at the exchange rate at this moment in time, what magic are you looking at that this government would that be possible to have a unified exchange rate? Architect, please.
Of course, definitely. Government policy, if it allows market forces to take care of situation of things, okay, we will have a unified exchange rate. The exchange rates may start off being unpalatable because it's not driven by productivity or the facts of the trade that we have with international organizations, and we are still tied to the apron strings of the dollar. I may not have a choice than to use the word deceived, to believe that we already started trading with China directly with their own currency, the yuan. Yeah. But we later discovered it never really took effect. There's nothing like that. So we were just misled to believe that anything like that could happen, which never happened. And it's as bad as I had one silly experience. Perhaps I was the one that was silly not to have recognized that would happen. I wanted to move some money, just a little bit, to give my daughter some money from one bank in Osogbo to another bank in Osogbo in dollars. And the money had to first get to New York, and we paid some commissions, and then the money, and it just occurred to me, wake up, you ought to have just gone cashed the money and driven across the road and deposited the thing. But because, so it tells you that we are so tied to the apron strings of the dollar that eventually we need to move away from that. But the question is it possible? And yes, I've told you it is possible, and I've told you, yes, in being possible, it may be tough at the beginning, but gradually market forces will lead us to a place whereby even if those rates do not come down, we also will be able to afford those things. Look at, I always refer to telecommunications. I mean, only a few people had access to the telephone then, and I remember that even the telephone was not working so well. There was a point in time that my fiancée then was in the UK, and my phone will not even be able to reach us, so I will go and queue with others at Nitel. So Nitel became like a clubhouse where you will need to meet people who wanted to make international calls, and God help you if anything happened and there was a storm, you will see all of the comfortable, supposedly rich people in Osogbo at Nitel all fighting over who takes the ladder first. Pray, that doesn't happen anymore. Everybody has access to the telephone now. Yes, it may be a little bit more expensive, but now we've gotten used to it. It's no big deal to me. And so it is possible. But permit me to refer back to the question, because we may not go back to that was posed to Ayo. I find myself today not agreeing with many things that Ayo said. I usually agree with him. Don't mind him, can be very naughty, but I still end up agreeing with him on so many things. But today you are making me, putting me in even in an uncomfortable position of having to defend Bola Ahmed Tinubu on a few things. The man, after 11 years, had every right to have changed his mind, because there have been shifting parameters over those many years about issues of fuel subsidy. And the man had always been saying that fuel subsidy would go. To some extent, I agree, neither here nor there, that if when he said, oh, it's not in the budget, of course, his own governance will actually effectively take effect from June into July, and somebody made provisions up till the end of June. So when he's speaking like that, maybe not in absolute terms, but he's saying that essentially there's no provision for his budget, for his own budget that he will be operating. And then in his speech, let me read that speech out to you again. He says, subsidy can no longer justify its ever-increasing costs in the wake of drying resources. So the man is already telling you subsidy is gone. That other thing that you called an outburst to me was a simple expatiation of the position already taken in the speech. He said, we shall instead rechannel the funds into better investment in public infrastructure, education, healthcare, and jobs that will materially improve the lives of millions. It had always been in the heart of that man, perhaps after shifting parameters over those 11 years, that subsidy should go. A lot of us will support him on that. And then on his tenure, I said, probability, not because I'm obedient, but because the courts are still there. I wish him well, but one thing is sure, people like me can easily be swept off our feet. If good governance is delivered within the next 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, then I may be telling the obedience to let us be a little careful.
Okay,
let me say this. Okay. I think it is important to say this, that perhaps what I'm uncomfortable with is the kind of politics that our leaders play. Okay. If subsidy had been removed 11 years ago, we would have been better off for it now. 11 years is a long time. Absolutely. And the draining, what he called in his speech as draining source of resources, has always been there, right from that time. That was a part of
dried it.
Of course, the subsequent administration, Jonathan and Buhari dried it up. So we didn't even have surplus in the days of Jonathan. And that was why he needed to remove that subsidy, albeit wrongly, because I remember he was throwing money around, buying buses for student union and all of that, which was not the way to go in cushioning the effect of this. But if we had allowed subsidy to have been removed 11 years ago, perhaps by now nobody will be talking about it and we'll have had better infrastructure. I only hope that people will not put clog in the wheel of this program, because there's a Forum of Society organization where we're reviewing this issue overnight, and I told them that, look, if you call for protest against fuel subsidy today, I will not join. But it's not about me. A number of other society people will join for reasons of benefits. But even if we don't, there are political parties that will raise opposition to this fuel subsidy just as an attempt to put clog in the wheel. And I hope that our politicians, irrespective of political party they belong to, will look beyond putting lines on the lines on the way of the present administration and allowing us to do what needs to be done once and for all.
Okay, so as we begin to wrap up the show now, let's take a look at the monetary policy angle of President Tinubu's speech. He's talked about direct funds away from arbitrage into meaningful investment in the plant. He looked at the currency swap that was, according to him, too harshly applied by the CBN, given the number of unbanked Nigerians. The policy shall be reviewed. In the meantime, administration will treat both currencies as legal tender. End of quote. Monetary policy needs thorough house cleaning. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. And I think that thorough cleaning should start with an Emefiele's remover, because he was in that pavilion yesterday, and when that statement was made, one very smart cameraman zoomed in on him to see the reaction on his face, and I caught that. And if you want to review economy, it starts with who sits as the head of economic policy making. And I dare say that this is the time. As a matter of fact, one of the few people I expect to be fired in the next few hours, if not or days, should be an Emefiele, because there is no way you can have him at the helm of affair that he would not sabotage the process of economic recovery. That's number one. Number two, one beautiful thing that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu PBAT did yesterday is the decision to ensure that the two currencies are allowed as legal tender, because there were premonitions that he was likely going to make a declaration yesterday that one was to leave for the other. But I think he was smart enough by those who helped him to prepare that speech and the decisions that went into it, into ensuring that the new and the old remained as legal tender. But I must say this, that look, one of the problems that brought us to where we are today is the issue of the foreign currency exchange. And I will tell you an experience. I call him a former friend because I find it difficult to roll with him. And he's actually not a friend. I only happened to follow another person to his residence. And while we were in his house, he got a call somewhere in Lagos that, look, so person has just approved that $100 million should be approved to you. And right there in our presence, less than about an hour, he sold off the $100 million. And he announced the profit he has made without leaving the table in 30 minutes. And that is the kind of cartel that was being run under President Muhammadu Buhari, whereby waivers are given to a number of people, the so-called abokis and what have you. They will have access to the money that even banks structured banks cannot have access to. And then it's funny that those black market sells to the banking sector. Is that bad? The bank itself will not have access to dollars. They will have to rely on people in Sabo to even bring currency for them, and they make a lot of profit. Somebody will not leave his seat and they will make hundreds and millions of profit. So I think if he wants to be sincere with this path to economic recovery, the first thing to do is to ensure that the foreign exchange are returned back to the process by which they can only be obtainable in the bank. If for as long as you put foreign currencies in the hand of black marketers, you cannot stop the exchange rate from nosediving on the daily basis. That's number one. Number two, I hope sincerely that it will not also make the mistake of unnecessary investment into social sharing. And what do I mean by that? One of the mistakes of President Muhammadu Buhari is giving undocumented money. You just wake up one morning and you will hear that 1,000 youth have been given 500,000 naira. You just hear that it happened right from the days of Jonathan when they were doing, I've forgotten the name, You Win or whatever it is called. How many of the people that benefited from You Win with 5 million, 10 million naira grant have paid a dime back? The 500,000, 750,000, 2 million naira that was shared across board under President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, how many people have paid back? All of the market money sharing that the former Vice President Yemi Osinbajo did, who has taken record for it. So I hope that PBAT will not also fall into the temptation in the name of social investment to begin to give out undocumented fund to people. And I think because I saw something like that in the speech yesterday where I was talking about raising social capital and what have you, I hope that it would create a means or devise a means whereby small businesses can be helped without doling out money to them, without records or hope of paying back.
Right, because of our time, let me just ask, if you have a one-on-one opportunity to sit with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu right now, what will you recommend to him?
I hope the first thing you recommend is not that I should leave office.
I won't do that. You know, most people don't understand that some of us are just interested in good governance. And I thought that the party or the platform on which he was coming had messed things up so much, and he will still have some of those people around. So the first thing I'll tell him, he needs to do away with those that could be hawks about his government. He needs to bring everybody on board. This is not because I am an obedient, but because it makes good reasoning. They must embrace the eastern part of Nigeria. They must develop the northern part of Nigeria. He is not supposed to be the president of Yorubas, the way Muhammadu Buhari was president of the Fulanis. Let us face reality. He must recognize he's president of Nigeria. For now, I'm not very comfortable with the fact that even in their National Assembly posturing, they have done away with the East. Have you forgotten that these people had to survive the tsunami of the Labour Party in the East? And instead of encouraging them and letting them have something like the Senate presidency, what position do they have? Because they have not patronized you well. So President Bola Ahmed Tinubu must reunite Nigeria, must ensure that we have security, must ensure that all these other things about the economy are resolved, and then you'll be shocked that a lot of the people that criticize the Muhammadu Buhari administration may go back to start praising him, especially if he does more even of those things. The few ones that we have praised Muhammadu Buhari about, that is tinkering with constitutional reforms, akin to proper restructuring.
Comrade, your own suggestion.
Well, I think if I have to sit with the president, the first and the most important thing for me will be his need to unify the country, and that aligns with the opinion of Architect Gusman. We are so much divided that it will take some very critical decisions, actions, and appointments to begin to give people the impression that they belong to this country. Look, you cannot achieve justice and progress if there is no unity, and the only way there can be unity is when there is justice in terms of patronage. I am also aligning myself with the fact that the first thing that he needs to do from this morning going forward is to be very sensitive about the kind of appointment he makes. It will be difficult because people like him tends to want to use the same team that has worked for them over and over again. But you should realize this is not Lagos. This is Nigeria. So I hope that by this morning, I'm aware that a few announcements of appointments will be made. I hope it will not be too sectional that will begin to point accusing finger at him of his not being Nigerian enough.
All right, so we hope that the president, he said yesterday that he's president for all, and that's reminiscent of President Muhammadu Buhari.
Exactly.
I'm president for, I belong to everybody and belong to nobody, and then there were reports that the entire Abuja offices were like a mini northern enclave of the country. But I'd like to thank our guests sincerely this morning for joining us. Architect Gokimin Godwin, thank you so much.
Thank you. My pleasure always to be here.
All right. And
especially sitting next to Ayo.
And of course, thank you, Comrade Ayologun, for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, so I will be coming back to give you what's trending. Of course, the inauguration is everywhere, but particularly in Kano, where some strange things happened yesterday. Stage collapsing, the governor deciding not to sit on the official chair of the governor, choosing instead to sit somewhere else. We'll take, when we come back, we'll take the stories for you, but Tunji Ekolo will be signing out.
Come again?
Tunde Ido, rather.
All right. I'll be back again tomorrow on another edition of Morning Spring. Thank you for being there.